Entitled Parents creates a future killer IMO featuring medical fraud. This is less one thing she did, but more of a compilation. The most entitled part is number 5, though. Cast: Martha, mom, 35, former nurse; David, dad, 45, professor; Ben, boy child, 7-9 for these; Gabby, girl child, 5-7 for these; me, OP, 27-29; Donna, direct supervisor; my best friend's older sister, 34-36. Names changed and coordinated for ease of remembering. Background: I have worked with kids since I was a teenager. I have a degree in education. I tend to work with kids 7 to 10 YO. At this time, I was both a teacher and an after-school counselor. This all happened at an after-school. I have never disliked a child before this, especially because 90% of the time, the behavior can be blamed on the parents. I have hated parents. This is the only kid I've ever genuinely disliked. I quit my second job because he'd have been in my group otherwise. Ben threatened to burn down the building. Ben had gotten in trouble for going into the relaxation corner, a crap teepee with some stuffed animals that only one kid is allowed in for temper tantrum come-downs, with 2 other kids and demanding they kiss. This was not the first time. This was maybe the 3rd time. As far as I know, they were in there for all of 10 seconds, just long enough for the staff member to hear what he said. He was sent to Donna's office. Think principal's office. He refused to talk or sit in furniture, so he sat on the floor by the door against a wall. He asked her, A, what would happen if I slammed your laptop on your fingers and broke them? B, what would happen if I shot you in the hand? And then he gave her a detailed description about how he would burn down the building, full of too many O to 10 YO, by unscrewing a light socket with the screw his counselor kept in the drawer, stuff it with tissues until it was smoking, re-screw it. On, get his sister, lock all the doors, and not call 911 until it's too late. He didn't get punished for this by his parents. How do I know? Because he hid under the table when David came and said, in a baby voice that he only uses for his parents, "You're just gonna lock me in my room again." David said, "You won't be punished if you just get out from under the table." Ben then bounced, out from under the table in a great mood. Ben tried to drown a kid. It was Kid C's birthday. Kid C doesn't go to the after-school. A co-worker is also at this pool for unrelated warm weather reasons. Kid B and Ben do go to the after-school. They were at a community pool. Kid B and Ben are splashing and roughhousing. Ben seems kind of frustrated. Ben starts to hold Kid B, half a foot shorter, under the water. David and Kid B's dad are watching from the sidelines. They start to call out to Ben when he's not letting up. It was described as frantic from Kid B's dad and mildly annoyed from David. Kid B's dad had to jump in the pool and body check Ben to get him off his kid. He walked out of the pool, said nothing to anyone, and his kid never came back to the after school again. 3. Martha is apparently nuts. I worked in a daycare in high school, maybe 13 years ago, after school. Martha came in to pick up her niece-in-law. I didn't know her or the kid, but I remember because midway through that the mother of this kid came in and started screaming at her about how she was not to ever be around her kid and that she was not to contact their family, and she threatened to call the cops. Drug use was also mentioned. She called Martha a fucking junkie. She made sure that Martha was taken off the pickup list mid-rant. 4. Their neighbor is a friend of a friend. Their neighbor told me that they go on family walks every day and she has to keep her dogs inside because Ben started throwing rocks at them as he passed. Parents refused to acknowledge this. 5. Martha falsified records. This has the most details changed for anonymity, but it's accurate. So Martha was a nurse. She left her job. No one cared why. Her husband is rich, so we figured that was it and didn't mention it after the initial finding out. For the first time since Martha left her job, the kids were coming up on their vaccinations. The school sent home a letter saying, "It's that time of year." Then they sent the "It's that time of year" letter again. Around this time, they decided to stop coming to the after-school I had left. Then the "Hey, you didn't respond" letter, and again. And then they sent the "Hey, it's the law" letter. And then they sent the "So you're not responding to the letters or the phone calls about this, so here's the date you have to have them vaccinated by, have to have a doctor approved. Plan to vaccinate them by," and then that date came. The kids are legally not allowed to show up, but they both get off the bus that morning. They go directly to the principal's office, and the nurse is told to contact the on-record pediatrician to check if the parents got the vaccines or the plan, and just didn't tell the school. That conversation goes something like, Nurse: Hey, can you tell me if Ben and Gabby still need vaccine X and vaccine Y? Doctor: Lol, what? They need a fuck of a lot more than that. Cue the two of them going through all the records and matching them against each other. These kids weren't vaccinated, but according to the papers with the doctor's signature, they were. This is when we learned that Mom had been a nurse at that office until she had been fired for forging documents. She'd forged the signatures for these, too. I have no clue if she's being legally prosecuted. But the school couldn't tell her all of this when she showed up. First, because the kids were there. Second, because it's unclear whether they should know all of that. And third, because Mom came in screaming and live streaming to her FB friends. There is a video somewhere out there of a banshee woman, with her gigantic silent husband, screaming at the principal, nurse, and multiple other school staff about discrimination, vaccine science, falsified accusations, and the fact that her kids need an education and they must give them an education, but also that this school had never taught her kids anything. The cops were called. She was escorted away, still screaming. Last I heard, she was homeschooling, but she was rushed, severely injured, to a big hospital after falling off her roof drunk or high around 11 a.m. on a school day.